Let's see. There you go. I adjusted. Can't hear you.
See if that's better.
Yeah, that works. Okay. Well, you're on board. Thank you. We'll see. Who else? I think, well, I think we're gonna have a quorum. And so we'll wait for a while. I've been communicating with Doug Deaton, and he's been traveling and just settled into his current accommodation, but he hasn't had any chance to review all the information about that email board policy. So we'll probably amend the agenda to continue that until the October meeting, which will probably shorten up this meeting. We'll see. And I didn't hear from Dick Burkhart, but people said he was on the Zoom meeting after the first service at church. So I was afraid he might have been ill since he didn't attend the retreat, but at least he was at that Zoom session. So what are we expecting tonight for weather? Are we going to get rain on or not? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I suppose I could take a look. Check my cell phone here. Source of all information.
Source of all information.
I guess that's YouTube.
I got a few drops on my car when I was in Costco about an hour or hour and a half ago, but they evaporated, and on the way home, there were no more drops.
Yeah. According to this, it's 89 degrees, mostly cloudy. There was some around 5 p.m. a little chance of showers, I guess. Let's see what that says. I don't know, this seems contradictory. 21% chance, 21% humidity and chance of showers. That sounds like a contradiction.
Yeah.
I must have read something wrong. Oh well, I'm not gonna worry about it.
No, I'd like some rain. I'd also like some cold weather to kind of help the vegetation anticipate winter coming on.
Yeah. I was quite impressed. I talked to Todd and he took that, I don't know if you overheard this, but he took that presidential debate and subjected it to Chat GPT
Yeah.
for logical contradictions. I thought that was pretty clever. And I'm thinking of doing that myself, start checking everything on Chat GPT as far as logic and non-answered questions and this type of thing. And lack of verification from any factual source.
It would be handy to, and I couldn't attend that meeting, nor could I attend the one last night because of some family stuff, but it'd be interesting to see how he phrased the questions
Well, exactly.
that
Yeah.
might help us in phrasing similar inquiries.
Well, I think he's on to, I mean, I think he's something on to really important, using, keep in mind, Chat GPT is not infallible, but it's certainly more credible than most of the nonsense which is floating around out there today. In other words, you have someone who lies 1/10 of the time and someone who lies half the time. You go with the one who lies 1/10 of the time, or gets it wrong 1/10 of the time. I'm talking about using Todd's technique of checking political statements with AI, Chat GPT. So I was quite impressed by that. And I'm thinking of very seriously copying it myself and looking at see how, as you said, see how he phrased things exactly.
Yeah, you were in that meeting, weren't you, Luba? We can't hear you.
You are muted, Luba.
Oh, gosh. Do you
There
hear
you
me now?
Yes.
go.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
And I was quite impressed, and I'm thinking of doing it myself. I've lost my Chat GPT passwords, but as soon as I clear up some other problems, I plan to look into that very heavily.
I have an app for my, I use a Mac, and I have an app that I downloaded called AI Chat Bot. And I don't know whether it's just, and I don't know whether it's only for Mac or whether I just selected Mac, but I've used it for several things to ask questions.
Mhm.
And you know, had it provide answers. How to do a comparison like he did of various aspects of this speeches of the two candidates during that debate. I'd be interested in how he made that work. Hi, Cindy.
Hello.
He explained it to me briefly, because I approached him after the service and told him I was extremely impressed, which was not just flattery. I was really, really impressed.
Good.
Uh,
Good. The only thing that concerns me about more of us using it as commonly as we might use use Google is it's extraordinarily energy consuming.
yeah. Well, you mean the inquiries?
Well, to use it uses the more and more of us who use it, it consumes an awful lot of energy, which is kind of counterproductive to our to our trying to get away from fossil fuel and everything. Like the Microsoft is going to try to get the 3 Mile Island reactor that has been in use until a couple of years ago. The smaller one is trying to get it up and running because they're using so much energy and in their AI stuff. And I've heard this over and over again, that the more we use it, it creates an energy use that we hadn't contemplated 3 years ago.
Well, that's quite correct. My thought is there's other approaches to the problem, but you're correct. It's not just a drain; it's a drain 24/7. It runs 24 hours a day, so it's
Yeah,
using energy 24 hours a day.
worldwide.
Yeah, the thing is, I heard a lot of stuff about electric cars, and they don't want you to use your appliances in the afternoon. So how are we going to provide the answer for all the energy for all these electric cars? And the answer that was pretty obvious, I thought, because the cars charge at night. There's excess energy at night. There's not excess energy during the day, during the afternoons, but at night they have to most of the power generating facilities have to turn the generators down to stop the voltage from overloading. You get the voltage go so high because of the lack of drain on the lines.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's not a problem. So, pardon me.
when I got my 220-volt charger through a Vista, which the unit was free, I had to pay half of the installation costs of the electrician. I had to sign an agreement, which they don't know how they would enforce it, that I would only charge, I'd set my car so to only charge during the night, which I have done. I can override that if I have to, like if I'm traveling, but so.
It's that time. I guess we better move on to business here.
Yeah, we have, I'm still, we don't have Dick and we may have Doug. He texted me that he could attend for a short period of time. But we do have quorum here. We have six board members and a quorum is 2/3, and that is 4. So there is Doug. So now we have a quorum plus 1. So can you hear me, Doug? Are you on board?
Yes.
Yeah, there you
Hello.
there you go.
Hi.
Okay, well, let me call the meeting to order, it being 4:01. The second item on the agenda is to amend and approve the agenda. And after kind of exchanging texts with Doug, I'm gonna move that we forward or postpone item 9.1, which is consideration of the amendment to the current email policy, and you might want to address that, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, the demands of my travel, I just moved into a new accommodation in Ottawa, and I just have not had a chance to review that whole issue, and so I think if it's not too urgent, to put it off another month.
Okay, are there any other suggestions to that, to the agenda, altering it, adding to it?
Yeah, Tom, I had a couple, I think it may have been an oversight, but there are a couple, at least unless I'm looking at the wrong agenda, but the one that I had has some items on there that we decided as an exec board did not need to be on here.
Well, if you're talking about things under my report, what I left them on there, not because we're gonna deal with them, but for me to state how I resolve them as the president, which is essentially to move them on to other locations.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good, okay, that's it.
Agreement on that. Any other items? Okay, well, let's say the agenda is approved as amended by moving to October item 9.1. Then we have the next item is the approval of the minutes, which we all should have gotten. I have to reach down on the floor where my horizontal filing system. So we have the set of the minutes that came to us. Any changes or suggestions of how to change that or alter them? Okay, seeing none or hearing none, well, I'll just make the decision that the minutes are approved as we received them from Maryland. And that gets us down pretty quickly to your comments, Todd.
Yes, I don't have much to report outside of being continuing to travel to represent us in the hinterlands of the world. I will have gone to a different church every month for the past, I think, 6 months, and it'll be 6 months in October, and then one more I'll be speaking remotely at in November, and then I'm going to try to take a break from spending my Sundays off away, but it's a very rich experience, and particularly the relationship, for example, that I have with the folks in Glacier where I went last Sunday. Of course, a lot of Kai and Charlotte moved there, so it's been good to reconnect with them. But that church just celebrated its 60th anniversary, and there's a real kinship that they feel with our congregation because of all the years I've been going up there and connecting with them. And I think that's always been a mission of our church. It certainly was expressed to me when I was called that we wanted to be that kind of a base for Unitarianism in the region, especially since we were a large congregation and there are so many smaller ones around. So that's been very rewarding, and I was honored. They contacted me after I got back, and one of them said, "Hey, Todd, we want to have a Todd Eckloff library on our website. Have you kept transcripts of all the sermons you've given over the years? So of course I'm honored to have done so, and glad that I did. So other than that, plans for NAUA are going well. We as you know, the keynote speaker bowed out on us at rather the last minute a couple of weeks ago, and I've been working pretty hard to try to find somebody who would be of a caliber that we deserve. And just found out today that John Wood Jr. has agreed to be our keynote speaker, and he was so excited about it that he's offered to come in person. So he is one of the lead representatives of Better Angels, and is a former candidate for Congress in California. Was head of the Republican Party in LA, and he spends much of his time advocating for communicating with each other, tolerating each other despite our various differences. And that's why he was really excited about coming to this group and being able to speak about dealing with the racial inequalities and social inequalities in our world in a way that continues, in his words, to honor our liberal values that this country is founded upon. So I think we got lucky, actually. And we've had some folks very generously donate some additional funds to help cover our additional costs to bring him. And so we'll have a really I think it'll be an honor to have him in our building. So as much as special to UUCS as it is to NAUA at this point. And then the other thing, Tom, you asked me to look into the rental with the Bluegrass group. So it's a very small group. I think they meet once a month, but we will end up getting about $800 a year from that group. And it is a nonprofit, and we can rent without limit to nonprofits. It's the for-profit businesses that we're limited on how much income we can get from for-profit business. We can, as I understand it, get some, but not too much, or we have to. We used to rent a piece of our parking lot before I came. The part that you remember that, Tom, and we had to actually designate that as taxable property in order to do that on an ongoing basis. It took quite some time to get that off of the IRS's radar. We were still paying taxes on it, and we weren't getting anything for it. So that's something Rebecca finally accomplished for us. But she understands it a lot more than I do. But that's what I know about it. So yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
What about renting to individuals that are neither a business or a nonprofit?
I think we can do that. Well, Rebecca would probably know better, but for example, if an individual wants to have a party there, I think that's just us renting for our own, would be considered us renting for our own fundraising, right? But if you were, say, you were going to rent it as a yoga studio, is like just as an individual business, whether it's LLC or not, and you were charging a fee for that, that would be considered a for-profit endeavor.
Sure. Weddings, though, I know
weddings. We can do
maybe
any kind of liturgical stuff that's related to church life. It can be unlimited. So yeah, if we wanted to, in fact, I think we've talked about upping the prices for weddings. We're pretty affordable compared to a lot of places, and I think our venue is as nice as any in the city for a wedding. But yeah, we can charge as much as somebody will pay, and not have to pay taxes on it.
Oh, good, thank you. The other thing that it kind of is a hangover from the last meeting was this, you know, this issue of the finance team, and the only thing that I could find was that we are supposed to have one, it's in the bylaws, a separate article, and that the board appoints people, at least two people. And the treasurer is part of that, and practically speaking, so is the operations manager. As far as I can tell, we don't have anybody unless we would count Bill Morkel, who said that he hasn't attended for a while, whether that's his choice or he didn't receive notice, or there simply wasn't a meeting. Can you elaborate at all on that?
Yeah, well, that's nice. That's my understanding that Bill is the only member left that was appointed by the board a few years ago. I think it's indefinite, their term, so they can stay on for as long as they want. But my understanding is he doesn't show up a lot of times, so either he's missing the emails or you know, I don't really know. I don't want to get into that. But it would be him, Rebecca, and the church treasurer who make up the finance team at this point. Probably, you know, obviously the treasurer makes sense. The operations manager has to be part of it. But it would be good for you guys are probably all getting that alarm too, no?
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Looks like a dust storm perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, the purpose of the finance team really is it serves the board as a body that can report on our financial situation. And of course, you can get that from the treasurer. You can get it from you know, the report the office produces. But the point of a finance team is really to have people that can absorb that data and understand it and easily decipher it for the board. It's really the finance team is really serves the board as a means of keeping up with our financial situation and understanding it, you know, throughout the year. So the quality of its makeup really serves you better, right? If you can find people, I know it's not easy, who are good with numbers and understand budgets and can look at them and say, oh yeah, I've looked at the data, we talked with it in a meeting, we had our operations manager there. And whether it's the treasurer who gives the report or a member from the finance team or the treasurer monthly and a finance team report quarterly, whatever you want. But I do think that it needs some additional members at this point. The trick is going to be surfacing some, not only some folks that would do it, but some folks that are qualified to make a meaningful contribution.
I will add to that, Todd.
Yes, please, Luba.
And that was discussed during the operation team meeting because practically there are two acting members, Rebecca Adams and Dick Burkhardt. I didn't quite understand whether Bill Morkel is no longer active member of the church or he is just not showing. But certainly,
I think he's an active member. I've seen him on Zoom, and I believe he's a contributing member as well. So,
okay, he is an active.
Yeah.
All right. So the problem of needing another member is very easy because during that meeting, Donna Borden Rhodes mentioned that she wouldn't mind. And she is a perfect candidate. She used to be in the finance team before. And when I asked her in the church on Sunday, she said she liked it. I believe there are very few people who would like that, you know, work with numbers and so on. So anyways, and there was a question of frequency of the meetings as well. But that's up to them, to the team.
Well, let me, with that addition, is everybody comfortable in me approaching Donna to be an appointee of the board if she's willing?
Yes.
Yeah,
Anybody objecting? I'm not seeing anybody objecting. And
Holy mackerel.
what?
Wow.
the dust.
The wind and dust just hit just suddenly. Wow. It looks like a tornado out there.
Wow,
Oh my God.
Holy mackerel.
you're on the west side of town, so you're getting it first.
Let me see if I
Yes.
can reverse my screen here. There's a way to do that. Come on. Well, I'll just turn it this way. I don't know if you can see out there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Got really dark all of a sudden and
Yes.
It's like when the ash from Mount St. Helens descended on us. Sounds like.
yeah, it's really loud here too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I'll be getting it soon also, being where I am on the South Hill. Hi, Dick. So let me approach Donna Borden Rhodes
Be right
about
back.
that. And the other thing regarding the finance team is, we need to have an understanding of like who calls a meeting. Is it the operations team? Or is it the treasurer that calls for a meeting, and are they regular meetings or are they periodic meetings?
I am, like, it just hit, like it was right after you texted me.
You're just joining us, Dick. We all got an emergency warning for a pending dust storm approaching, and Todd being on the west side of town, it's hit him first, apparently.
Yes.
I'm in Brown's Addition,
Oh.
and it kind of looks like I'm in the eye of the hurricane.
Wow.
It's swirling all around me, and I've seen a couple of decent sized tree branches come down.
Wow.
It's supposed to be winds in the 35 to 40 mile an hour range with gusts up to 50 and 55. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, while you were out off the screen there, Todd, I said, we're going to go ahead. I'll talk with Donna. And then also, it seems like there needs to be a better understanding between of who's kind of in charge, who calls a meeting, whether they're regular, a certain day of a month, or whether they're periodic. And is that Rebecca, or is that the treasurer, in this case, Dick?
Yeah, I would say two things, right? If it's up to Rebecca,
Yeah,
she's going to call it when she needs it. And there's a very different purpose in Rebecca calling a meeting than somebody who's representing the board calling a meeting, right? So what Rebecca does is there are certain periods in the year in which different things happen around finances. And she wants to get different heads together to observe what's going on. So
okay.
she wouldn't call one once a month. She would call one particularly around budget time or those sort of things when they have data to show or something like that. So if the board wants a finance team that is, again, this serves, at the will of the board, really. So if the board wants a finance team that is more actively engaging with the board, then I would say appoint a team in which somebody would call those meetings, so that they could say, okay, we're gonna want to be able to meet and clarify our financial situation on a monthly basis, so that our church treasurer, Dick in this case, can give adequate reports during our board meetings. So we'll want to meet once a month, or well, let's let Dick meet with Rebecca as needed, and then quarterly the finance team. It's totally up to what the board needs. But if it is up to Rebecca, I think she would only call meetings as she sees events happening. So I'd find somebody that might chair it and call those meetings based upon what the board decides it wants.
Okay, well, the finance team, for those who want to look at it, is Article 13. And it refers back in there to the finance section, which is a separate section. I don't know whether it's Article 2 or 3. But it does say that the operations team, working with the board, senior minister operations team, and the administrative staff in coordination and execution of that Article 3, and the duties may also include what we've just discussed, which is drafting, revising, recommending financial policies. Now, we may have an overlap here if we get it, depending on if we decide that trying to enhance the income is one of the most important things for us to undertake this year. We might find ourselves calling upon that group to help us as a board with coming up with ideas about how to do that. But that will be something we'll deal with a little bit later. So I think that kind of that concludes, unless you have anything else to add, Todd. We move on to my report, which is item 5 on the agenda. Okay, under my report, just a couple of 3 things that came up unsolicited by me, but brought to me were 3 items. One was a suggestion from Barb Rodriguez of trying to do something to increase the number of people who would attend church on Sunday mornings. And after discussion, that was referred to actually to Todd, because we have a system for dealing with what happens on Sunday morning. So I referred Barb essentially to work, at least to work with or consult Todd. The other item that came up was a suggestion from Bill Morkel, who found problem with the word worship, which kind of has Christian overtones, and he wondered whether we could do something in our order of service to change the word worship to something else. And that, again, kind of boils down to what happens on Sunday morning, and I referred Bill to Todd on that. And then there was a request from Barb Stubing whether our church congregation would come be considered an apartheid-free congregation. And after discussing that with Nancy Avery, whether the Social Justice Coordinating Council had addressed that, Nancy said she didn't think that had ever been formally brought up. So I referred Barbara to work with the Social Justice Coordinating Council and see whether that council wants to get back to the board with any recommendation. And then as far as, let me see. Then the next item on mine was kind of giving an update on the board retreat, which was this past Saturday, and in attendance was Todd, Cindy, Luba, Justin, Doug by Zoom from, I think, Montreal, Canada, and me. And what the major purpose, and we spent considerable amount of time, was to study and discuss and develop a basic understanding of policy governance. And we discussed the big picture versus the nitty gritty or nuts and bolts. And the boards, as a policy governance body, is more involved with the big overall picture. And we reviewed several examples of things that had come up in the past couple of 3 months as to whether they were policy governance issues or whether they were something that could be handled by some designated body that has a responsibility to deal with those. And that partially just explains what happened with the last 3 items that I just mentioned. We also dealt with, but didn't make any decisions, of course, but we raised the subject of how would we deal with an item on a congregational meeting, annual meeting or other congregational meeting agenda, if an individual wanted to have a resolution brought before the congregational meeting. And that's when we got into talking about, well, maybe we need a board policy that would deal with something similar to a member bylaw, which would be, maybe it can't be just one individual, maybe it would be at least 10 or 12 persons that would have to support there to being a resolution on the board agenda. So I'm wondering if we need or could have a motion that that two of us, me and another board member, would get our heads together and bring something back to a board meeting. And I'm suggesting that be something that that maybe Justin and I could do leading up to the next board meeting to come up with a proposal for us to consider.
I'd be willing to help out on that.
Okay, is there any other comment about the concept of coming up with some kind of a notion, not a bylaw amendment, but a board policy thing?
Just let me make sure what there's numerous things brought up, everything from 4 or 5 items are brought up, including how the use of the word worship, apartheid, and more, which one in particular are we addressing, or all of them?
Oh, we aren't addressing any of those. It's just the concept of if an individual, for instance, wants to bring an issue to have a congregation vote on it, whatever it would happen to be, that right now we don't have a real process for how to do that. And what we would be doing would be saying, besides the board putting something on the agenda, which a board typically can do, we would have a policy that would say if an individual wants to bring forth something, here's a process of getting something on the agenda for an annual meeting. So if there's no objection, can we sign that test to myself and Justin to bring forth something for the next meeting, or maybe the November meeting, depending how things go? Okay. Did you have another comment, Justin?
Yeah, thinking like we could meet like after church or something, or when did you think we should do this?
I don't know. We'll figure out.
All right.
We'll figure out a way we might do it. You know,
Later.
come up with something by conversation on the phone, and then maybe a resulting something. You and I'll exchange a couple of emails and see if we could decide on something to bring back to the board.
Okay.
Okay, then we also talked about a mission statement, because someone had asked me, a member had asked me before, where is our mission statement? And this was early on in this new board's thing, and to tell you the truth, I looked all over the place and I couldn't find a mission statement. We have statements in our articles of incorporation. We have statements in Article 1 of our bylaws that kind of address what's our responsibility and what we're for. But when it came right down to it, I couldn't find anything that was clearly a mission. So that's kind of something up in the air. I'd be open for any suggestions. One suggestion was the printed words on the wall screening the kitchen. There's some words there that are just a simple sentence. Is that a mission statement? But I couldn't find anything official. Does anybody else have any insight?
I know we talked about this at the meeting, but yeah, I have a distinct memory of us seeing it in some kind of documentation at some point, because when Cindy and I were involved with the group in San Diego, it came up, and you know, they were suggesting that we change it, and we said, well, we can't change it because it's been approved by the congregation. So we without going into a big thing where we'd have to, you know, have discussions and go to an annual meeting, we just sort of came up with the short version that we say, you know, or in short, and kept the mission statement. So I honestly can't remember where that was embedded, but it was in some document at some time, because I remember seeing it.
Would it be would it be unreasonable to ask Rebecca if she has any knowledge of it or could come up with something for us?
That's true. She might be able to have a document in her record. I'll ask her tomorrow.
Yeah, if you'd convey that request to her, that would be handy. Then, let's see, I thought that we needed a policy and procedures governance document in our folder, and Rebecca informed us, I think yesterday or today, that it was already in there. It was just in a spot that I didn't spot it. So I sent an apology to her and the rest of the board that I had overlooked that. We discussed what we'd like to do with our vacant trustee position. And we didn't make any decision, but we've needed to bring it to this meeting, whether or not to try to fill it or to leave it vacant. So I'd be interested in a motion or general consensus that we should try to fill it. Any comment from the board members?
We need to fill it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Luba saying assertively, fill it. Any other comments?
Yeah, I agree. Seconder, I agree.
Many
Okay.
hands make light work.
Okay, then I'll consider that a direction that we will undertake a method or means to approach filling that. Does anybody, I mean, there's a couple ways to do it. In fact, I have consulted the nominating team, and they gave me a couple of names that were on their list to approach during this last election. Has anybody got any names that would come forward that I should have on a list to be considered? And the other thing is, do we simply put a notice in the Sun saying we would be interested in anybody who would be expressing their interest in that? That doesn't mean that they would be selected, but I don't certainly know all the people in the congregation, and maybe if there's somebody out there who would say, I'd like to investigate that or something like that. Do we have any thoughts on this whole process?
I think it's important that we are including members that are Zoomers that we don't see face to face and are perhaps less well known to us because of that. And I'm not quite sure how to approach that group or reach out to that group of people, but it's significant and we need to not overlook that.
Yes.
You mean the Sunday morning Zoomers?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also suggest, checking with our nominating team, because they may have names that they vetted or considered that, were over and above what we needed last year.
Yeah.
They may have some that they discussed and said, well, maybe that's not such a good idea after all. But it's nice to maybe get them involved. I think they would be willing to help surface some good candidates.
Well, I can certainly reach out to them. It is the board's responsibility to appoint, so we'd be only asking for their advice, input, counsel. What about if we're going to approach the Sunday morning Zoom group? How do we, I don't know who that is because I don't go there. How would we best get a list of those people? And if we were to approach them with a kind of an open invitation of interest, then do we not also approach the whole membership through the Sun about persons that might be interested in being considered?
Yeah, I'm not personally a fan of opening it up and just saying anybody want to be on the board. I think it takes some intelligence and some work to try to find quality candidates. Myself, I mean, there are some people that I think just wouldn't be great board members, maybe don't play nicely with others, that kind of stuff. Hate to admit that happens in churches, even our church, but that's a real possibility. But Rebecca will have we'll be able to know some of our members who are from out of the area, at least. And
She will.
let us not forget that Dick Burkhardt is one of those members who's already serving on our board. So thanks
Sure.
for,
Yeah.
thanks for representing Dick.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something too. I think, for example, on this finance team, I think that needs a leader who's more familiar with the people in the congregation there, the full-time in Spokane. And there for quite a few board member functions, you really need to know the people pretty well. And I think that, so you have to really consider that too, what kind of positions or functions the board member would have.
Well,
Right.
if we open-endedly approach out of area people, and still coming down to the question about why wouldn't we open-endedly just generally approach the total membership? Not that we don't vet people.
I'm not suggesting open ending to anybody myself.
What's that?
I wasn't suggesting to do an open ended to anybody. Including folks that are distant members. You know, I mean, I know, at least I know the distant members. I think a lot of us do. So we have a resource for asking, hey, what do you think about so and so? Then again, if we're going to be completely democratic and want to just open it up, then we open it up all the time and let anyone who wants to run, and maybe we'll have contested elections.
Well,
Candidates,
again,
candidates.
I'm trying to stress that just because Joe Blow says, I'm interested in being on the board, doesn't mean that that person becomes a candidate.
Mhm.
Somebody has to be vetted. Everybody has to be vetted as to whether they fit in, would be a productive person and all that stuff. But my concern is, how do any of us on the 6 members on the board know who might be one of those persons because of the limitations we have of maybe only knowing 15 or 20% of the entire, the entire
Well,
membership.
that's why a nominating team is good, because they can go through and they're used to doing that. They could do that on behalf of the board and then come back with if you say, hey, we want you to give us 4 names or 5 names or whatever, people you think would be for us to consider if you want to have more than one, but.
Well, problematically, I asked the key member of the nominating team, okay, you've mentioned 3 or 4 names. Have these people been vetted? And the answer was no. We never got to those names to vet them because we had 2 vacant positions and we had 2 people that we thought were qualified agreed. So whether we would be asking the nominating team to vet the 2 or 3 names that were mentioned or any other persons, that seems to be the way you're kind of leaning, if I got you right, Todd.
I mean, I would, because I don't want to have to do it. So if I were a board member, which of course I tangentially am, but
Yeah.
If I were a board member, I would not want to take that on amidst everything else, but you can take it on if you want to surface some names and then vet them yourselves. Go for it. I was just saying, we have a nominating team in place to help with these kind of things. So it's totally.
Well, I think that the nominating team must play the biggest role in that. But I also support Cindy's idea of trying Zoomers, and Zoomers can be local, those who cannot just come in person for some reason. The more candidates the nominating team has, the better would be the choice, because then we know whether these people are willing and capable or able of fulfilling the duties of the Board of Trustees.
Okay, what I get out of this is that we would like, one, that we all agree would like to fill the position. So that will be a decision of the board to work toward filling the position. And the other thing I get out of this is that we approach the nominating team and ask for them to bring forth 1 or more names of people that they have vetted. Is that a reasonable understanding?
Mhm.
Okay. So
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
is a decision of the board, unless there's objection to that. Then there was also at the retreat, no decision made again about things that might be of interest to the congregation that might kind of tangentially have a result of increasing attendance, and that was whether to set up a table in the Friendship Hall after the services, maybe more so after the second service, since there wouldn't be the transition between first and second. That would be for a table of people that would like to discuss the sermon topic of the morning. There was also a suggestion about setting up a table that which there would be one or two trustees at a table, which has kind of been done somewhat in the past by other boards, to actually have a chance to sit down and talk with a church trustee. And the other thing that was discussed about trying to increase person's interest in attending was, setting up some more events or having lunches periodically, maybe even Saturday night dinners or something like that, associated with childcare or something like that. Do we want to investigate that as a board and see if there are options a board would like to consider? And finding people that'd be interested in participating in that.
My memory of that conversation was that the tables for board members to be present or for discussions about Todd's sermons were kind of in conjunction with maybe having a potluck or brunch after the service. Am I misremembering? Or anyway, that's an idea.
Yeah. Any other comments about whether
Yeah,
we should
so-
try to work something out along those lines?
Yeah, I think there was discussion mainly around having events, after the service that are convenient. If the goal is to have more people who are local coming in person, I think that we need to have reasons that they might want to come in person, and after service potluck or picnic, whatever, those sort of things from time to time might be conducive to that. Again, my decision around getting up in the pulpit and announcing that we want people who are live streaming to come, or Zooming to come in person once a month. I'm not going to do that. I have strong feelings around the freedoms of people to make their own decisions about what opportunities they're going to take advantage of. And if some people feel that the best way is to make relationships is in person, that is their thing, not necessarily everybody else's. However, I am happy to get up in the pulpit once a month and say, we're going to be having our monthly potluck next Sunday. I hope anyone who's available can come to our potluck. And I think that would have the same impact, if not a better impact, because it actually gives people an opportunity to commune and share in the communion by contributing to it. So that's where I'm at with it. I think the potluck and events like that are probably going to do more to increase attendance than robbing from Peter to pay Paul, as I say.
Any other comments? Lynn?
Well, I just think you might be interested to know too that many of you, maybe you already do know, that I started a poetry sharing circle on the third Sunday after the second service. And people still choose to go to church however they want to, and then they show up for the poetry circle. So, we can try whatever ideas we want, but people are attending, I think, the way they want to attend church and coming to events as they want to. So I think we might even be surprised if you planned a whole bunch of potlucks or something and events. You might still see people attending the way that works for them. and then coming maybe to the event if that sounds interesting to them. So I just found it kind of interesting to see. We have a great attendance at that poetry sharing circle. There's been between 8 and 12 people every time.
Mhm.
But some of them don't come to church. They just
Hmm.
want to come to the poetry circle. So
Where do you hold this?
in the chapel after
Okay.
the second service on the third Sunday.
Oh,
I agree with Lynn that that may happen. Well, maybe the experiment with potlucks will prove your point, Lynn.
I'm thinking also that besides poetry, there may be groups in the church who are working on particular projects, and they could hold listening circles after church once a month for people who might want to just tell them about their experience in that area or interest or listen or just sharing, something like that. It couldn't just be, you could have multiple opportunities for sharing after the service. That could be part of a potluck or just independent.
I would also say that, you know, one, I do not have a goal to bring people who are streaming and Zooming on to church on Sundays. That is not my goal. I would like to see more people in physical attendance, like everybody. But I'm not going to, again, demand that people come and satisfy my need, right? But what I would say is that just this past Sunday alone, between the two services, we had 155 devices logged into our services. 155. Okay, so who is really representing attendance at our church right now? Is it the people who are coming in person, or is it the folks that are choosing to come remotely?
Yeah.
And I believe this is the world we're in, and we need to accept it and take advantage of it. Respect people who have shifted their lives to a more virtual kind of experience, and take advantage of the extra space we have to encourage others, newer members, to come. So I it's just kind of where I'm at with it, but I don't want to create the feeling that somehow we have us and them. You know, we have the folks that come in person and we have the folks that don't. And shame on the persons who don't, because they're missing out. You know, that's not what we want to do. We're one community, and we have several offerings that we intentionally put out there so that people could attend in different ways. And I want to maintain the cohesion of our community by celebrating our successes, and the fact that we have so many people joining us on Sundays, whether those who are in person can see them or not, or those who are Zooming can see that, because I'm always getting that too. Doesn't look like there's anybody there, you know, because our cameras aren't set up to catch those folks who are there. But
well, I don't think anybody here is asking you to do, the things that you just stated are
Yeah.
not in line with you. I don't think anybody here is asking you to do that.
Yeah.
What I'd like to ask is whether Cindy and Luba would give this some thought over the next month, and see if you can come up with some suggestions to bring back to the board, so that we would get the advantage of you two maybe coming up with some thoughts together and bring back to the board at the next meeting, or the meeting, or the November meeting, depending on how our agendas work out.
And I have thought too, of that 155, only about a dozen people, and it's very consistent, are actually on Zoom. Everyone else is live streaming. And the people who come on Zoom are pretty, knowledgeable and intense people, who often usually want to stay after and have really interesting conversations. I suspect that people live streaming might want to be, some of them might just want to live stream, but some might want to be involved in other ways, but we don't know much about them. And it'd be nice to find out more about who is actually live streaming, why, or do they have any other interests other than just sort of listening in?
Mhm.
well, it is not a clear division, okay, because
Yeah.
what we do know is 80% of our live streamers are local.
That's what I was thinking, that many of them might be local, and many of them
Well,
might be interested in other kinds of things and particular
Well, if they
issues.
were interested, though, they would come, right? So
Yeah.
we've got 80%, but it's not clear. It's not like we have
Yeah.
people that come in person and the people that live stream.
Right, right,
Most people do both.
right.
Sometimes they come in person and sometimes they live stream. Because it's more convenient, or they don't want to get out on the roads, or they just didn't feel like coming today, or they did feel like coming today. So, I just don't think it's something for us to worry about. It's for them to worry about. We set those mediums up so that people can decide how they are going to participate in our church life. And
Well,
I don't think we just need.
we're getting away with.
But Tom, it keeps coming back to me, so I am bringing up my position because I keep getting people come to me every Sunday and saying, you've got to do this. And I just want the board to know where I'm coming from and why.
Yeah,
I
I'm thinking that
that's
some of those
really
people,
clear.
80% are
What I'm
coming
trying
for
to- What I'm trying to
poetry.
get is, can we get Cindy and Luba to bring us back some thoughts about how to work within the parameters of how we've just discussed something?
Mhm,
Sure.
mhm.
Yeah, why not? Cindy, let's
I'm trying to
share
clarify
our
what,
opinions.
I'm just thinking there may be more people who might come to church just for example, the poetry sharing or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be within the
People might
realm.
be live streaming, but they might come for some activity they happen to be interested in.
Well, that's what, that would be the
Mhm.
realm of what I would hope Cindy and Luba would bring back some suggestions to us.
Mhm.
And you had a comment, Justin.
yeah, I've got numerous ideas on that and I would like to be part of that.
Oh,
Oh, great.
Great.
okay, three board members working together on that issue would be just fine. That isn't a quorum, so that you all can work together however you want to do it, however you want to interface with each other.
Okay,
Great.
And then finally, we did talk about what if we had one or two focuses for the rest of the year, what would they be? And the ones that we listed as possibles were income enhancement, other than endowment funding pledges, increased attendance, whether it's virtual or otherwise, which would result in membership. And the third one was the whole issue of UUA, UUCS separation. So that was an issue to be important enough to be, say, one or two issues. And the other one was any option it's to involving the 7 principles, which didn't end up in the bylaws, but is there a reason enough to involve the congregation in some other aspect of the seven principles? So are there any thoughts of those 4: income enhancement, increased attendance / membership, UUCS, UUA separation, or 7 principles that would be, say, the 2 things we would try to focus on this year?
my opinion is, that working on increased attendance also increased attendance means increased donations, so that's like knocking off 2 birds at once.
Mhm.
I very much like the idea of increased attendance. And think that should be an absolute priority.
So you're connecting attendance with income enhancement, but that's again kind of through pledges. If we wanted to look at income enhancement outside of pledges or endowment, how would we approach that?
That because I just have the standard things, rental and that type of thing, and I have no particular ideas.
But should it become important enough for us to seriously look into that, and maybe involving the operations team, the finance team, if we could get that aspect of the finance team or any other special appointed persons to look into that? One thing that's come up is possibly surveying other churches to see what they do for added income beyond their pledges or their endowment. so that would be taking advantage of other people who may have something going that we don't know about.
Yeah, my answer is yes, if we can find that individual.
So the only
To me,
one.
to me, it should be a priority. The church has to have money to survive.
That seems to be, at least in Justin's opinion, is that income enhancement, for lack of a better term, would be at the top of his list. And the
Yeah.
other people have thoughts regarding increased attendance, UUCS, UUA separation?
Hmm.
Well, what I'm hearing is that income enhancement possibly related to increased attendance, which might also be related to enhanced income, but outside sources of potential income, I would like to go for that one. So if I were to volunteer to investigate that, I do have a list of churches that are on my list that I use for my, sending out notices. Can I have someone to work with me to maybe develop a fairly simple 1 or 2 question, 3 at the most, questionnaire that we could send out, unless somebody objects to that approach?
Hmm.
Can you work with me on that, Doug?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, any objection to Doug and I working together to bring something forward, either at the October meeting or the November meeting, that might be in the form of a questionnaire and possibly including a mailing list on the particular item of outside income that would come into the church? Okay, let's consider that as something that Doug and I will work on.
And I had one thought,
Yeah, go ahead, Dick.
on the 7 principles. One of the biggest problems in our society right now is this extreme polarization, and politically, but also just in cultural wars and everything else. And it seems to me there could be opportunities of say approaching these issues through the 7 principles. To say, could the 7 principles be our guiding light to try to find some more common ground and less vitriol and polarization? And are there opportunities in the Spokane area to work with other groups on this? I know Todd has done this kind of thing in the past. Are there current opportunities to sort of implement our 7 principles by talking to other people on divisive issues and things like that? Or is there any interest in that kind of thing? I don't know.
Any comments regarding kind of in dealing with our internal issues versus reaching out to the broader community with something resembling the 7 principles?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate where you're coming from, Dick, but I think the first priority is figuring out where our church is at with
Mhm.
with the UUA, which has abandoned those principles. Are we still going to be part of an organization that has literally said human dignity is white supremacy? Is that who we want to what we want to be part of? So the question of how we express our values will come later, but I think that whether we express them as the 7 principles, or which the congregation has already decidedly said it does not want in our bylaws, then that's another conversation that I wouldn't prioritize. But I think we'll be working in our community and world, as we have been for years, to certainly express our liberal values, however we frame them.
And I was just thinking that the best way to combat what the UUA is doing is trying to show the value of the seven principles and how we can better solve some of the problems in our society through the seven principles or things like that, instead of this kind of really highly partisan ideological stuff that they're doing. Again, it's difficult, but somehow we have to establish a track record, I think.
I think there's other options. We
Right.
have a track record, you know, and
Right.
it hasn't been really promoting our seven principles, but it's been
Yeah.
living in a way that
Right.
reflects that articulation of our values as well as others.
If somehow we could, it seems like some of these things we do are kind of buried in the public consciousness, even in the UUA consciousness, the kind of things that they're very, very good we've done in the past, and some people are still doing.
I think we may get some inspiration from our keynote speaker at the NAUA Summit.
Do we have a new speaker now? Who's that?
Yes,
Yes.
Who's that?
it's John Wood Jr. And I listened to a kind of a lengthy interview between him and Coleman Hughes today.
Oh, did
Oh,
you?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
That sounds good.
very articulate, very very interesting guy. And the whole Better Angels concept, I think, could be inspirational for us.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be realistic about how much the board, particularly when we're trying to only have six and are trying to add a seventh person, how much we could undertake, and the income enhancement possibly, combined with increasing attendance, be it virtual or in person. And boy, I don't know whether we get down to the point of being able to talk about the UUCS and UUA separation or not. And that may be something we can
I
decide.
know that the shared ministry team can take that on if the board's not able to, because I know it's pretty important to some people, and we can host those conversations and give feedback to the board.
Well, with that in mind, with that note, are some board members comfortable with my asking the shared ministry team if they would consider that a project that they would spend some time on over the next few months?
I think that sounds really good. And they may want to be in touch with the Jacksonville congregation that's doing their Forward Together piece. I'm a little farther down on the agenda. I'll talk about that more in a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be a delegation to a standing committee or a standing team to spend some time figuring out the level at which our congregation might get involved in that issue. And I will convey that. Well, I guess, Todd, since you're an ad hoc person or an unofficial person, not ad hoc isn't the right term, but person do you want to convey that? And
Sure. Happy to.
Yeah, well, let's have that go through Todd to the shared ministry team as a request from us. Okay, so that's good. And then that ends my extended report and our discussion and several key items of direction. And that would then come down to item 6, which is the ops team liaison report from Luba. And
Yeah,
if
that-
you can, we'll have some written comments that would able to go to our recording secretary for inclusion.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. At duration team meeting covered, well, most of the questions that are usual for meetings: financial, new software for the office, new website of the church, and chapel repair. And Rebecca's report, it was said that in the last financial year, the church had to use 38,000 from the reserve because of extra expense, like Debbie's retirement, because of unfulfilled pledges, and not enough income from the rentals and fundraising. According to Rebecca, we still have a little bumper for the coming year and the budget approved for the higher fundraising, which is very important. The chapel repairs being in progress, and the old expensive fire system is done with. A contract has been signed with a new local fire alarm monitoring company. I didn't get the name, which is less expensive and much more responsive. It's a blessing. A new accounting software transition is in progress too. But the process of creating a new church website and making the access to the website easier is really a big project that will take time. Rebecca and Michelle review the pages, the templates, they remove the redundant information. And the last question was the question of finance team members, which we have discussed already, because it is important to have more than two people working on the finances, like Rebecca Adams and Dick, the only people involved currently. So it's important to have a new member, another member. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Now we're down to the treasurer's report, and all of us should have the 3 year-end reports. And if you'd care to summarize, Dick, any of the important aspects of those 3 different reports, that would be very handy.
Yeah, you just got a brief report already. I think the key thing is that pledges came in only about 90% this last year. And more typically, pledges come in like 95% or more. Again, I got the impression that maybe some of this is for people who passed away and have not been able to complete their pledges. But that is a fact. Pledges coming at 90%. And then to pay the bills, basically, as we just said, something around $40,000 in contingency funds, of which $20,000 have been planned on. But even $20,000 is an awful lot of money, and that was in the budget. And I know they have enough contingency left to cover maybe another year or two but certainly not the $40,000 level. Right now we're taking money out of the bank, which could only last another year or two, even if we work hard. I think that's the major thing I see. I guess the good thing is that so far, like in August, pledges are coming in a little bit slightly above normal, and facility usage is coming up a little bit above normal. So we're starting off the year well, but we don't know how we're going to finish this year. And even if we get much more a better return on the pledges, we're definitely going to need the fundraising, and we need to look at something that's going to be sustainable over the next few years. And that's why a lot of these things involving more people, I think more activities involving more people will be critical to actually increasing our base that's coming in from pledging. Otherwise, something would have to be cut within a few years, you see.
Do we have any idea, Dick, about whether since the generosity campaign is over, whether the generosity campaign pledges, for lack of a better word, are equal to or in excess of the year before?
Yeah, I think they're in excess. I think we have about 10% increase in pledges, which is something like that, which is really, really, really nice. But you need more like 20% increase to be on because we've been taking so much out of contingency.
Yeah. Do we have between you, Dick, and maybe Todd, because being closer to the operations team, do we have any idea whether and again, this kind of gets down to my making a distinction, and I don't mean it to be derogatory, among the remote people who are either on Zoom or are live screening and are, whether their level of pledging is comparable to our kind of, for lack of a better term, our traditional members who've been around for a long time. If there's any new people, anybody have any comments about how we do with regard to generosity pledges from people who are more remote, not physically here?
Good question. Do you know, Todd? And you're still muted, Todd.
It's hard to know.
My understanding, yeah, it is hard to know. I mean, Rebecca could go in and do a line by line, but I don't think we want to get into looking at, what everybody pledges. But yeah, my understanding is that, yes, in fact, if you look at, if you consider the number of people that are actually streaming and Zooming with us compared to those that are in the room with us, you would have to conclude that most of the resources are coming from people who are attending online, because that's where most of our attendance is. And we do know that 80% of those are locals. Again, but yeah, our distant members, and not everybody who has necessarily live streams or joins us via Zoom has joined our congregation, but they can all go online and make contributions. I just asked Rebecca this week, because I thought it was happening, and apparently it's not, that we need to have the QR code up on the screen on Sundays. Right, so instead of asking people to go to the website and contribute, they just scan the QR code during the music for our collection, so they can give a lot easier that way. So I've asked, now I know that Michelle has to do that, and she is off this week. So I don't know if it'll start this Sunday or not, but I thought that was already happening, but it's not. So I asked that it does, and Rebecca agreed that that's really something. We need to have a slide up every Sunday during offering that gives people a chance to scan it and makes it more convenient. So let's see if that gives us a boost.
Cool. When we send out generosity, information leading into or starting our generosity campaign, does that only go to members, or does that go to people who aren't members but are on whatever our list is?
Yeah, it goes to our entire mailing list.
Okay.
And because we have a lot of people in the friends category, people who are contributing friends that have never joined the church.
Okay. Okay, good. Anything else, Dick?
I just had this one thought about the Zoom. I noticed, seemed like in the last few weeks, there's been a new camera in the sanctuary that gives a new view of the audience. And I really like that. I think it's a much more intimate view than we had before of the audience. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. We don't have a new camera, so that's interesting. I wonder. I'll make note of that. I'll ask Todd or Shelley what they've been doing.
It's either a new camera or redirector, but it seems to me a new camera because it feels much better. It gives me, I feel closer to the people.
I wonder if that might be something that Shelley did last Sunday. I know she was in for Todd. I don't know if she was in last week or not. I wasn't there.
I think for the last couple of weeks I've seen that.
Yeah, I think Shelley also last week.
She pushed it in a different place because she told me she did. So I will mention that's working.
Share the good news.
Yeah. Thanks, Dick.
Yeah. Jacksonville, Cindy, you attended something.
I did.
virtually.
So I think this came to us from Lynn, and I'm not sure her connection to the Jacksonville church. I know Penny Reed is, of course, relocated down there. but this congregation is having a process of discernment to decide whether or not they'll stay or go with the UUA. And so I was one of a few people attending by Zoom. They're considering 4 questions that I'll read to you. The first question, the passage of the amendment to Article 2 of the UUA bylaws at GA 24 removed the 7 principles and 6 sources of wisdom from the national UUA bylaws. Their church members voted overwhelmingly by 95% to reject this change. How do you feel now? Should the church find a way to continue to focus on the 7 principles and 6 sources of wisdom as the spiritual basis for this community? And they voted with little sticky dots on big butcher paper. I didn't, so they're going to meet again and kind of reveal what this led to. There wasn't a lot of discussion back and forth, questions and answers. It was just kind of a voting on that particular topic. But the 3 other questions are, question number 2, our congregational community faces a path with 3 options, which are remain as a UUA associated congregation, 2, become an independent congregation, or 3, partner with another Unitarian association. What information do you need from the task force to make an informed decision on the path forward? Question 3, do you want to receive information from the task force, include all that apply, town hall meetings, emails, or other? And question number 4, during the work of the task force on the amendment changed Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, what do you wish the task force had done differently? What would you like the task force to do this year that they didn't do last year? So this was just their initial meeting. There wasn't any resolution to it. It was just basically taking information in. Penny did speak at this group and she described NAUA. She also mentioned the 5th principal project, and she mentioned that she will be in Spokane for the NAUA conference. So look forward to seeing her when she gets here. So I guess what I can report is they're very engaged on the question and working to keep communication open, discuss it, and really get a sense of where the congregation wants to head and make an active decision rather than just devolving.
Do you think that there is, considering that we, through Todd, have kind of referred this issue to the shared ministry team, whether that you could convey any of that information to Todd or to the shared ministry team, and maybe even suggest that they kind of keep in touch with their process that's going there to see if it has relevance to us?
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
And that was a thumbs up from Todd?
Thumbs up, yeah. And Cindy, if you want to email me those questions or whatever, that would be helpful. I'm happy to pass that on. Lynn may know because I know she's been in touch with Penny on this, but I'm just feeding my dogs right now. I'm realizing it's dinner time for them, so I'll mute myself, but you'll see me moving in the background, but I'm listening.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well-
in addition, there's a gal who's done a lot of the work down there. I think her name is Terry, if their last name now. But she's a real go-getter, very energetic, and has visited many congregations in that area and in the South.
Would it be Tessie?
No, it's Terry, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Tessie Bond is the
Yeah,
person
That's
who's
different, yeah.
kept me in touch.
Yeah, so there's some strong personalities down there who've really gotten that congregation really engaged in these whole issues. There are very few congregations in the country have gotten really engaged at all.
Mhm.
It takes some very strong leadership to get that to that level of engagement. Most ministers just avoid it, and most congregants aren't that eager to take it on either, frankly. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I think their 95% vote is pretty telling.
right.
Yeah, but that was a vote against the amendments to Article 2. It wasn't a vote against whether or not to leave UUA or not.
Correct.
Yeah. But it's very clear that they're considering their options, and very few people have gotten to anywhere near that level of engagement
Mhm.
nationally. Um,
Hmm.
But it's a telling sign, and
Oh, yeah.
and the other thing was this parent article in The Economist came out last week saying that we've passed peak woke, actually 2 years ago. That and so that is a consideration, is that I can see it in the UA too. They're not pushing the white supremacy culture stuff like they used to. They're backing off on some of this language. They're calming down quite a bit. Now where but they're still totally in control, and maybe they're starting to worry about losing congregations of people. I don't know, but it's kind of hard to know exactly how to deal with things right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Any other comments? Okay, then we're down to the point where we need to have our floating trustee appointed for our exec committee meeting, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to do that, Justin, because you have not sat in on an exec committee session.
Well, I'm not sure I'm being, I'm not sure I understand what I'm being asked to do here.
Oh, to sit in on the exec committee meeting that sets the agenda for the October meeting. And we would be meeting on the 16th at 4 o'clock, and I prepare a kind of a rough agenda based on the previous meeting. And then that becomes something that we would then consider. And it involves Todd and me as a president, Doug Deaton as vice president, and then a floating board member.
Okay, so you want me to set an agenda or to set up
To just join us for
I'm
that
happy to join
for that
this.
meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to join. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'll be sending out a draft agenda, and then what we do is massage that, either add items or delete items.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll be happy to join.
Okay, thank you. And then the meetings that are typically the third Wednesday at 4 o'clock, which would be October 16th for the exec committee meeting that we just discussed. And then the board meeting the following week on October 23rd at 4 o'clock, which would be, the same as this meeting, but one month later on the fourth Wednesday. Anybody have a problem with that, or I think that that's one we've kind of been traditionally working on, so let's set that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the nominating committee working on getting a chair, a new person chair for the finance committee? I think they should be.
No, don't worry, ask that question again.
Is the nominating committee attempting to recruit a person to be chair of the finance committee especially to focus on fundraising?
No, that would not be a responsibility of the nominating committee.
Well, I think we should ask them though.
That would be contrary to our bylaws. The only definition that they have for responsibility in our bylaws is for candidates for the board, for trustees. So we're kind of on our own with that one.
Maybe we need our own nominating committee for that purpose.
Well, we've suggested Donna Borden Rhodes has been agreed that I would approach her. And I'll confirm that Bill Morkel would be involved, and that there would be you as treasurer, Todd as an ex officio, and Rebecca when it's of issues of concern for her, and she being a resource person. So that's, at this
It's
point,
a
that's
start,
the way
it's a
we-
start anyway.
yeah, that's the way we agreed to approach that.
Mhm.
So then there's a small, little bit here for member concerns, and I see that Anne has very patiently sat through this and is the only non-member here, non-board member. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us or ask us?
Actually, no, not to ask anything, but when I can, I try to make it to the meetings. I try to make it to the church services when I can. Not in person, but not on Zoom, online, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, ever since COVID, we've been meeting by Zoom. Thanks for joining us. And we missed Lynn. She has departed, but Lynn was here. She was, is a past president, so she would be a resource in that regard. So anyway, if there's no other items to come before us, assuming there are none, I would declare the meeting adjourned
I
at,
have one point,
oh, you have one more, go
I
ahead.
just realized my brother's gonna be in town the middle of next month, and I'm gonna have to take a quick look at my calendar before I commit to that. My brother's coming into town from out of state. I may be tied up, so I'm gonna have to take a quick look at the calendars and make sure I don't have a conflict.
Well, let me know as soon as you
I'll let
can.
you know tonight, or
Oh, okay.
within 5. If you give me a minute, I'll let you know within 2 minutes. Stay online for 2 minutes after you adjourn the meeting.
Okay, and typically, for your information, the meeting is seldom lasted more than a half an hour.
Right, but I may be,
Yeah, 4 o'clock to 4:30 or 4:40 at the most.
yeah, okay, I'm just gonna have to check.
Okay, well, let's adjourn the meeting, but I'll stay on and you stay on, Justin, and everybody else, feel free to go have a glass of wine or have dinner or whatever's on your agenda.
Or feed the cats. Bye.
The other
Good night, all.
way.
Good night, all.
All right.
Night.
Mhm.
Be back. My apologies. I am available on the 16th. I will be there.
Good, thank you. And what I do is I send out a reminder with a link. It's not the same. It's not necessarily the same link as the board meeting. And as usual, I'll try to be on there about 3:55 and have you and Doug and Todd join us, and I'll have sent out a draft agenda quite similar to the one, that I've got. That's the format I use.
Okay, very good. My brother leaves on the 23rd, but I believe he leaves earlier during the day than the board meeting, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay. So long.
okay, bye-bye.
Bye.